4 years ago, a book was published that laid bare the very roots of Western civilization. It argued that the cradle of Europe, ancient Greece, had origins in Africa and the East, and that the West should recognize what it owed to black and Eastern cultures. This spring, a second volume is being published. The book is Black Athena.
La démocratie de penser, de parler libre. Vous voyez que les deux sexes sont égaux, les hommes et les femmes, comme on appelle les droits de l'homme.
Columns have no base, you can see, whereas the Ionic columns of the Erectian are more elegant with the scrolls on top.
The best place for photographers and the best view of the city is where the flag is. Did you see the flag?
Let's say we came here because I was interested in looking at this wonderful, let's say, Acropolis. I think it's part of everybody's history in some way.
Well, it's the basis of all democracy, isn't it? It started here.
It all comes back to roots, and that's where it is. And I think it's much larger than I expected it to be. But this is the root of civilization.
The Parthenon, symbol of classical Greece, is being rebuilt. As the architects and masons repair the broken stones, their aim is to preserve the image that we have of it now, bleached white and standing alone, not brightly painted and enclosed by other buildings as it was originally. But are we interested in having an accurate picture of this ancient civilization? Or have we reconstructed its past to fit our present?
I hope to give you some idea why the great age of Athens is considered to be one of the most brilliant moments in human history, and why Athens has been described as the most civilized society that has ever existed. You will see how the Greeks, and above all the Athenians, were not only great builders of marble civilization of Athens 24 centuries ago laid the foundations on which Western civilization is built today.
Good evening and welcome to For the People. Mention the civilization of ancient Greece and most of us automatically think of science, philosophy, and mathematics. But is this image of Greece true to her real history? And more importantly, how is the image of the ancient Greeks as the creators of science and philosophy being used to bolster and perpetuate racism? We'll explore these and many other questions with Dr. Martin Gardner Bernal, author of Black Athena.
In 1987, with the publication of Black Athena, Professor Martin Bernal challenged the academic establishment.
Okay, let's take a call from South Carolina. For the People, you're on the air.
Good afternoon. My question is the following.
Bernal claimed that during the last 200 years, scholars rewrote the history books, denying that ancient Greece had roots in Africa and Asia. The myth they created of a pure white, unsullied dawn of Western civilization was a result of both anti-Semitism and racism. And he argues it still influences the perception the West has of itself today.
I think that if people take Black Athena seriously, then they do have to look at our European early history in a different way. Because always implicit and sometimes explicit in our view of history is that democracy and science and philosophy are exclusively European possessions, and that although peoples from other continents can learn them through Europe and European culture, they are essentially at home only in Europe.
For Martin Bernal, attempting to knock Greece from the white pedestal of Western civilization is a huge undertaking. He started Volume 1 of Black Athena 12 years ago and has had to face the big guns of the academic profession.
Bernal has fallen into exactly the same trap as many of the 19th century writers did.
What happened in the 5th century happened in Greece and in Greece only.
We can't prove it either way. How can we tell?
He's attacking a target that we no longer need to worry about.
He doesn't know the evidence, and therefore he supposes that there isn't a great deal of evidence there.
And I, for one, do not think that he has provided anywhere near the amount of evidence needed to prove his case.
I don't know to what extent scholars today are still motivated by these, objectionable attitudes of anti-Semitism, racism, whatever it might be. I should think very few are. But they have been in the past to some degree, no doubt, but on the whole these are not the scholars who have been influential in our understanding of the way things actually work. I don't think it's played a part at all, frankly.
Of course there are many classicists who object to what I'm saying, and some quite emotionally. A friend of mine tried to persuade a friend of his to buy a copy of the book in Heffer's, the main bookshop here. And as he was talking about the book, the shop assistant said, "Would you mind speaking up? I hear so many people muttering as they look at that book." So that clearly there is opposition. On the other hand, there's been very little hostile criticism in print.
In 1989, the leading American classicists organization held a presidential panel at their annual conference to debate Black Athena. Articles followed from leading academics. Much to Bernal's surprise, they gave a serious and enthusiastic response to his project. The idea to hold a forum was put forward by Molly Levine.
Bernal's prediction for this book was that it would be ignored by the classics establishment. And as a classicist, I couldn't bear to believe that we were like that. If somebody had a good idea or even a bad idea, I figured we were capable of discussing it. And partly it was to test my own profession. I wanted to see what we were really like and if we were as bad as Bernal made us out to be.
Bernal teaches here at Cornell University in New York State. He's not a classics professor, but teaches Near Eastern studies and has taught Chinese politics. For Black Athena, he has studied archaeology, Egyptology, modern history and linguistics, as well as classics. He's supported by his own department. But how have other colleagues at Cornell reacted to his work?